Hi, I'm Liz Larson with The Art of Frosting. Welcome back. Can you guys see me behind this cake? I don't think so. This is how to train your dragon cake. There is so much here to show you. Tons of cool wings, ice spikes, other wings, not to mention this whole 3D piped on dragon. Let's get started. We're going to start making our wings, and we've got quite a few little things we need for this. You need a lot of little triangle parchments. This is a corner off of some plastic wrap of the box. You need something to lean your wings up against. I have a lot of little parchment cones that I'm going to use for my chocolate. A bunch of little bamboo skewers, the finest ones you can find, thin is what I mean. An offset spatula really is helpful. And then your different colors of candy melts. So I'm going to make Stormfly's wing here, and I'm starting with the yellow color. We want the wing to be longer on one side than the other, so we kind of just want to set that up. I'm doing stripes here because we want a multicolored wing of the blue and yellow. Come back in here with the blue. And remember, we're going to smear this around so it doesn't need to be touching. Come back in with our offset spatula here and start spreading out to the edge of the wing. We want it to come out raggedy, so make sure you lift at the end. Okay, once we have that part done, we want to get our skewer in one side of the wing. And then you want to cover the skewer with some candy melt. It's kind of the wing bone, and you can come back in and smooth with another skewer. You can see by my hand here it's pretty messy, but we don't want to stop to wash because we really have to work fast so that this doesn't harden up on us before we're done. I'm going to come back in with our yellow and create some more bones and spikes off the end of the wing. So you want to just pull down and pull a spike right off the end of the wing. Now if your lines aren't straight, don't worry about that. With these wings are really meant to be very craggy and spiky. And before that gets too warm, we want to get it around onto our support there so that our wing has a nice curvature. I'm making the shards of ice, and I've dropped a line here of white. I'm going to fill in with some more white at the tips. And some light blue. And even some dark blue here at the base. And I'm coming out to make some of these smaller shards and just pulling it right out through the tip. You want them to be nice and thin. Some of them can be thicker because this is an ice nest, so there's going to be lots of different shapes and sizes of ice, but you want to be real spiky, and you're going to combine those all together on your cake. It needs to sit for maybe 15 minutes here, or even just 5 minutes in the freezer works great too. Next we need to work on Stormfly's accessories. So we need claws and spikes and wings and teeth. So I'm just building a little bubble here and release and pull. Next we want to make some that are just a little bit longer. We're going to want some spikes on her tail. She also needs her nose horn, and she needs the spikes at the back of her head, which we'll do now. Squeeze, 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 and then release out to the point. Squeeze, 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 and then release out to the point. These need to go from smaller to larger on each side of her head. Next, we want to make a variety of nose horns that can be used for right there on her nose. I'm sure that nose horn is absolutely not the technical term for that, but if you happen to know what it is, write in and tell us. We're talking about her horn that will go right on her nose, kind of like a rhinoceros horn. So I want it to be a little bit two-toned. And I'm making several shapes and sizes here, so we have some options. Our next bit of preparation is to make Stormfly's face, her muzzle here. So what we want to do is take a large marshmallow and cut it into a V shape in the front. Next, I've cut a large marshmallow in half. You can see here, and I want to attach it to the back, sticky side to the marshmallow. This is going to create that lift that she has in the back of her head. And then we want to attach a skewer up through the whole thing. So this is going to be a very lightweight support for kind of a large head, and the skewer is going to allow that to attach it into our cake. A good thing to do is to do this the night before and to let it dry. So we're starting off with a 10-inch round. This is a single round that's been torted, so it's a little bit taller, and a double 6-inch round that's been rounded on the top. Now this is stacked and doweled and lightly iced. If you don't know how to do that part of it, watch my video on how to stack a wedding cake. It'll show exactly how to do this so that your cake doesn't move around. We're going to put our first layer of icing on, our first level of design on this cake, with white mixed with sky blue and also some charcoal gray and black. So what we're doing here is we're going to create the nest. We want it to look icy in some areas, and we want it to look rocky in other areas. I've got a quick icer here filled with sky blue, mostly white, but some sky blue in there, so I can get an icy look. And I'm going to bring that across my cake here where I've marked my V, where in this area I know that I want my cake to look icy. And what I'm going to do is alternate with my sky blue, which is my ice, and my gray. And I'm just going to take my quick icer and smooth that lightly. It does not need to be very smooth because this is ice. And we've got all those lovely ice shards that we made that we're going to stick in this. So it just needs to go on just so that you can't see the lines anymore of the quick icer. Now that I've got my icy blue on, I want to come back in with my gray color. Now this I want to look real craggy in here, so I'm going to put it on at different levels so that I look like I have rock shard, and just play with it because this is not going to be smooth. You don't have to be very precise about it. You just kind of have to decide where you want your rocks, and I kind of want this to look like an ice, almost lava flow. Now that I have my gray on, I'm just going to come back in with my offset spatula here. And actually, I'm not going to smooth it out. I'm going to rough it up just a little. But you want nice shards in here, pulling away from my rock and getting a nice craggy shard look. Now that's going to be important because we need places for our wings to hide as well. I have one more step here before I move on to my dragon. I'm going to fill a bag that has my number 23 star tip with the gray that I have left over in my quick icer and my blue. I'm going to use a border that you have seen before. It's 2 straight shells, so straight and up, straight and up. And as I go around, my gray and my blue will mix, and it'll mimic what I have going on here in my blue and gray icing. We're going to start on our dragon's body. Now our head and our body need to be close to the same size. This looks a little smaller now, but once we put icing on it, it's going to be a lot bigger. You remember this. This is our frame for our head. So this is a cupcake size. It's a little taller. I've actually used a 2-inch pan for it, but we want our body and our head to be in balance. Now remember that we've got a neck. It doesn't have a long neck. We want our head to hang off a little bit. So I'm going to position the body just slightly towards the back. I've got a skewer here that I trimmed down to about 6 inches. And I want to put that down through my body and into my cake. I'm going to need a little bit of transition space between my body and my head and my body and my tail. So I'm going to go ahead and cut half of a big marshmallow and attach it to either side, just so that when I do my figure piping, it isn't so much icing. You can also attach those with skewers if you want, or just a little bit of icing. We're going to be encasing them in icing, so they should stay on pretty well. So I've got my head here, my marshmallow head, and I want to insert the skewer up into the cake and up into the bottom of this cake. So I'm actually going to come up and under. What I want is for his head and neck to be looking down into the hive. So I'm actually going to angle him downward, and I can feel my skewer here with my thumb. I'm going to push there. Make sure you leave enough space so that he's got neck. This is going to be shoulders. He doesn't have a really long neck, but you want neck and shoulders here. Now you want to test here. You want to be able to see if it'll pull out, and this one want him just very lightly. You just don't want to get your whole head done and have him fall down. So make sure he's nice and secure in here. Now you can see also why we have the dowel in the body as well. I want to show you quickly our color palette here. We've got a bright yellow, white, a more navy blue, royal blue, teal, and our bright sky blue all the way in the back here. Let me tilt up so you can see that. Those are all the colors we're going to need for our dragon. Got my bag filled with my bright sky blue and striped with just a bit of teal. And I'm going to start with just a coupler, and you can say I'm just using a coupler. And I'm going to do just his skinny neck up to his shoulders here. Just see that, just a little bit. Next, I want to pipe in the first part of his body. Come around, and basically I'm just going to cover his body with my coupler until he's, or she, is all blue. We'll come back in with our handy dandy piece of sandwich bag that we're going to smooth with. I'm going to blend the neck into the shoulders and start defining the shoulders just a little more here. And start pulling off and streamlining my dragon. Now as I pull it down, my colors will blend, and I'm also wiping off the excess onto a bowl that I have here right beside me. Now your dragon does not need to be super smooth because it's a dragon, and they're actually really quite rough looking in the movie. So don't worry about getting him perfectly smooth. What you do want to worry about is getting your shape. On this side here, he's got more of a shoulder because he's kind of got his head straining to the side. And I want to get in there and define my shoulder and my neck a little bit more. Just keep at it till you feel good about your shape. And when you do, stop and we'll get his legs on. So we want to come in now and do his haunches and his legs. They're kind of towards the back. He's kind of chicken-legged. So you want to come in and just start creating a circle here. Let it build. You want it to be pretty fat. Okay? If you want it bigger or taller, just come in and pipe up here. We are going to come back and smooth. Next, I've got a bag filled with the more royal blue color, And I'm going to create an elbow here underneath. And then let his big feet spread out here. I'm also going to spread this blue just up into the leg a little bit for when we spread. Now I want his toes to really come down, and I don't have them as far down as I want because I want them to look like they're really digging in here, and he or she will have claws as well. So you want to get in there and blend, smooth them out, blend the colors together. So smooth them out as much or as little as you want, and we'll move on to his tail. Starting now with just a paper bag filled with yellow, bright yellow, and a coupler in the end. And we want most of his backside to be yellow. And we're going to blend a little bit, but what we're going to do here is we're going to go yellow, blue, yellow, blue, all the way down and around. He has a really, really long tail, so we want to just continue around with lighter and lighter pressure control, getting smaller and smaller until we come all the way around. And I want his tail to be really exceptionally long, so we're going to come all the way around to here. We're also going to put some spikes on his tail, so again we don't have to worry about the tail being rough or smooth. That's not an issue here. While we're here, we want to take the edge of our baggie here and blend our tail in and up the back, so it blends a little bit in with his back and in with the blue. See, it actually happens really nicely. It just incorporates the tail into the body and the color scheme a little bit. Next, we're on to our dragon's head, which is probably the scariest part, but it's really not too hard. We're starting with a number 12 figure piping tip. We want to come around and give him kind of a nice fat jowl. Bottom part of this dragon's chops here stick out farther than his top part. So we have to make sure that we put enough icing on that part sticks out. Want to come in with a nice clean one of your baggies here and start to shape. Now you don't need anything on the bottom underneath because it's already white. Just come in and smooth. This really shouldn't take more than just a handful of wipes across the jowl here. Next, we've got our number 12 figure piping tip back in our bag here of the bright blue and teal green. And we just want to come along and get his upper lip here and make a point. Come around this side, do the same. And you want it to come to a point there. So now just fill in. This part of his head's actually fairly flat until we get to the nose part. So we're just going to fill that in lightly with a ridge there. You want to come back in and again smooth lightly here. Now be careful, you don't want to be putting a lot of down pressure on your head because remember it is suspended out into space here. I'm going to turn this slightly, hopefully you can see. I want to come from the front to the back to get my point there. And do the same on the other side. And there we go. Now this part doesn't need to be too smooth. Remember, he's a dragon and there's a lot of cragginess there. You want to be real careful if you're going to come in and smooth that out, but you can if you want to. And I think I'm gonna let that be a little bit of character. Before we continue on with the face, I wanna continue with my number 12 here and just fill in lightly, very lightly, up the back here. And again, we'll smooth. I switched out now to a number 104 rose tip, and I'm going to create the wing that he sort of has, or she sort of has on the back of her head with a ruffle motion. Now I've got the first layer down, and I'm going to come in and actually go on top of that. Okay. And then we'll come back in and actually smooth that back just a little bit, leaving the top edge kind of spiky and craggy looking. And now all we have left is his nose comb. So we already started here. We've got a little point. We want to come back up into here and build that area for his horn to sit on. And blend it back up in. Just come in really lightly with our bag here. And shape it right down in. There we go. Blend it back up into here and we're done. We really don't need to smooth it out. And we've basically got his head done. We need to add on some nostrils and some eyes, and I'm just giving a little definition here with my bag just because I can. I'm going to come in now with a skewer and make the holes for his nose. So just right here next to the nose cone, we want to make a teardrop coming right down towards the mouth on both sides. And while I'm here, I want to mark my eyes, which are actually very low and at the same level as those nose holes. So I just want to mark them out here. I have just a cut bag here, just filled with white. And I'm just going to come in and add some jaggedy teeth. It's got a real underbite. That's about right. I'm going to come back in now with my white and just add the eyeball. Next I want to show you a little trick with color. I'm actually adding some red to my teal green here that I've been using for the cake, for the dinosaur, because I'm wanting to get a kind of a funny reddish brown color. Now if you add contrasting color, which red is to green, you will end up with brown or a grayed color, which is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm wanting a putty kind of a color. I'm going to stripe the tiniest bit of red up my bag, and then I'm going to fill with this brownish, reddish, green color. That'll give me exactly that funny shade that I need for his nose and eye accent. I've just cut a little tiny tip out of the end of my bag, and around his nose I'm actually just going to pipe a series of little dots, starting with larger, going to smaller, and I'm getting a cool effect here of not exactly green, not exactly red. Now I want to start on the eye. I'm going to do the same around the bottom, a series of dots around the bottom of the eye, coming to a point. Now before I put the top on, I'm going to dip my skewer in just a tiny bit of black, and I'm just going to paint an eye slit on. So I painted on just an eye slit, just the tip of my skewer and a little bit of black coloring. Next, I want to bring in my first line. It's going to be a heavy line over most of the eye and down, and one more over that. After all, dragons are I don't know, most likely reptiles. So we want to give him a reptile eye. I'll show you that one more time here. And then the heavier overlid. Just like that. So that's it. Our dragon is figure piped on and complete. Next, we need to come back in with some of those really cool candy melt things that we made and put on his nose horn. There we go. See how cool that is? Blends from purple to yellow. Very cool. We want to come back in with some claws. Those are awesome. We can't forget the spikes. We just start to add those right in. Remember those little grooves we made earlier? We can tuck them right down in there. I'm going to add a few spikes down the tail. Spikes could very easily be figure piped. I'm adding just the last few spikes up his back. So basically we are done with our dragon with the exception of his wings. Before we're completely finished and before we put our dragon's wings on, we still have all kinds of ice shards to add. Remember, originally this was going to be an ice nest. As you can see, our ice shards are adding a really fun dramatic flair. You can even stick them down in the border. You don't want to get too carried away because remember that we do have some wings. And so we want to just tuck wings in, just hide them in here. And I think that we're actually going to want to put less of these than I initially planned because there's so much going on with this cake. I think we'll put these bright pink ones in the back here. So there is our hive and our ice shards and our gorgeous dragon. So the last bit is to guide our dragon's wings down in. So you want to position them. This dragon's wings are up high on his shoulders. Push down, you can guide with scissors if you want. And very gently, gently, gently. I have just a touch of skewer showing here, so I'm going to add just a dot of icing on the front of both sides. And then extremely delicately come in and smooth that back down into your dragon. I don't know about you guys, but I think this cake turned out totally epic. This is a lot of fun to do. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now, just keep in mind that you probably really need 2 days prep on this cake. There's a lot going on here. But I guarantee whoever you make it for is going to be really excited. You guys can find me at The Art of Frosting on Facebook, www.theartoffrosting.blogspot.com, where I share your work and mine. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and if you like this video, please share. It helps me out a ton. You can email me at cakedecoratinginstructor@gmail.com with those serious cake decorating questions and pictures of your work. If you try this one, I definitely want to see it. See y'all again soon. Bye. Thanks.